Video games often have stressful parts in them, but probably some of the most stressful ones are things that aren't as they seem. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 games that misled us in really stressful ways. Starting off with number 10, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice and the All Progress Will Be Lost message. So this is a game that's all about dealing with mental illness, and it pulls a lot of interesting tricks to try to put players in the same headspace as the title character. Right after the game starts, you're forced into an unwinnable battle. Like, the main character falls over dead, and the camera shifts to show you it was all hallucination. You don't get off scot-free though. Some of this weird black rot crawls up her arm, and you get this message: dark rot will grow every time you fail. If the rot reaches Senua's head, her quest is over and all progress will be lost. The message is clear. This game has some kind of permadeath mechanic where if you die too many times, you'll lose your progress and have to start the whole story from the beginning. They carefully word it to not explicitly say permadeath, but for most players, it's pretty clear. The developers were very purposeful in their words, though, because here's the thing: you can't actually lose your progress in this game. The dark rot does get bigger every time you die, but it never reaches your head until the scripted moment at the end of the game, where it always happens. Before that, you can retry as many times as you want, and the game just keeps going. It's kind of a dirty trick, but the developers intentionally wanted to keep the players tense, but they don't actually want to punish them that harshly. If anything, it does put you in the mindset of the character, because it's basically making you question the reality of the game. And number 9 is Resident Evil 4's secret dynamic difficulty system. In contrast to Hellblade, where the game tells you that a mechanic exists when it doesn't, Resident Evil 4 doesn't tell you about a mechanic that specifically exists to make the game easier. If you didn't know, Resident Evil 4 has a dynamic difficulty system. That means if you're low on ammo, the game gives you more, or if you're struggling with certain encounters, the game actually makes future ones easier. Or on the flip side, if you're getting through areas way too easily, the game makes sure that future sections are a little tougher. This basically is intended to make it appear like your resources are always just on the verge of running out, at least on your first playthrough. So a lot of first-time players, including myself, would conserve ammo as much as possible, but it's a smokescreen. The game always gives you ammo and healing if you really need it. So really, things are never as desperate or difficult as they first appear to be, because the game goes out of its way to help you out. A lot of games do have some form of dynamic difficulty, but they don't try to hide it as much as this one. At number 8 is Hollow Knight's The Banker. Dying in Hollow Knight works pretty much the same as any other Souls-like. Obviously, it's a little bit different in terms of how it looks and what perspective it's played from, but when you die, you lose the currency. In this game, it's called Geo. You lose all of it, and you have to go back to collect it, and if you die on the way, that money is gone for good. The difference with this game is that there isn't any leveling up of any kind. That money is used exclusively for buying stuff. So losing all your hard-earned cash can be a real big setback. Thankfully, the game does throw you a bone a little early on by providing a bank that you can store some loose cash. It is a seemingly very welcome addition for a while. But as you find out, the whole thing is a cruel scam. If you deposit more than 2,550 Geo, the banker bug just disappears and reveals that the bank was just an empty facade. This is probably the cruelest trick the game pulls on you. That's like a hell of a lot of money just to be gone. And it's easy to assume that that whole story ends there. I wouldn't put it past a Souls game to leave you with a huge screw you. But thankfully, there is a way to get that money back. You can hunt down the banker and slap him around to get your cash back with interest. So in the end, you can actually come out on top. The game manages to trick people twice. First into thinking the bank's legit, then into thinking the money is gone for good. You have to go out of your way to find where the banker ran off to, but at least you can. And number 7 is Psychonauts 2, Compton's Cook-Off. One easy way a game can insert stress into a situation is a time limit. Time limits can be pretty tight or pretty forgiving, but the first time you're playing a game, you really don't know how strict a time limit is. And one of the only levels with any kind of time limit in Psychonauts 2 is Compton's Cook-Off, the level where you're supposed to build these dishes of food in a time limit. And with each complete order, the complexity of the food increases while the time limit decreases. By the last one, it's a race to get everything everything done in time, but it doesn't actually matter that much because you want to know what happens when the time runs out? Nothing. Nothing. Seriously. You lose some mystery prizes, but you get them for free just replaying the level, so there's just no reason to rush. Like Hellblade, the time limit is just there to put you in the same headspace as the person you're in the mind of. It's only for one level instead of the entire game, and it's not as severe as Hellblade, but that ticking clock is more than enough to stress people out, even after they know it doesn't actually matter. And number 6 is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past's Mad Batter. Compared to some of the other examples, the amount of stress this guy generates only lasts for a few seconds tops, but those few seconds are so stressful. Like, when I found this guy for the first time when I was a kid, oof. You can find the Mad Batter hidden in the well near the swordsmiths. This is kind of ominous looking altar, and if you use some magic powder on it, this guy appears. Here's the stressful part. After waking up, he says that he's going to get his revenge on you by taking away half your magic power. And that would really suck. You have half your magic taken by some random guy because you wandered into a cave. As far as the revenge goes, however, this one isn't actually that bad, because instead of actually cutting your magic meter in half, it instead makes it so your magic spells take half, so he actually does the opposite of what he said. He makes your magic meter basically twice. That's not a punishment, but he frames it that way. I don't know why. It's a great reward in all actuality, but for those few seconds before he does it, you're like, oh my god, what? And number 5 is Borderlands: The Secret Armory of General Knox, the Crimson Armory. In the third DLC for the original Borderlands, your goal is to gain access to the titular secret armory containing a boatload of guns. Problem is, when you finally get inside, there's a countdown. If you don't get out before the timer runs out, the vault locks down with you inside. In this case, the threat's actually real because once the timer runs out, the doors close and you're actually trapped in the vault. The trick here is that it's Borderlands. When you die, you just respawn at a new U station with all your stuff intact, so who cares if you get trapped in the vault? All you have to do is kill yourself and you appear outside with everything you looted still in your inventory. So that's a pretty meaningless time limit there. And they really do trick you into being, like, kind of afraid because, like, you wouldn't think that you'd get to keep everything, but you do. And number 4 is in Shenmue 2. If there's one thing that's almost as stressful in real life as time, it's money. And one of the first things that happens in Shenmue 2 is that Ryu's bag is stolen along with all of his money. So you're stuck in a new city with no money and no place to stay. Now Joy manages to get you a room at the Come Over Guest House for just $38 per night, which is pretty damn good. I mean, have you seen hotel prices lately? It's usually like 4 to 5 times that much for a normal crappy room. But with no source of income, you basically have to do a bunch of odd jobs or resort to gambling to keep paying for your nightly room. And that's stressful. That is until you realize that you never actually have to pay for the room. The guy at the front desk will just keep adding it to your tab, and you're never forced to pay off the tab. It doesn't matter. No matter how much the hotel owner complains, you never actually have to pay them back for any money that you owe them. I mean, it's morally wrong, but it's also a video game. Killing is morally wrong, and you do a lot of that in video games. So just not paying some hotel owner for a room because he's a pushover, not really that big of a deal. At number 3 is Sekiro: Dragon Rot. On top of the usual punishments you get for dying in other Souls games, Sekiro adds an even more debilitating punishment, the Dragon Rot. It's vague in explaining what Dragon Rot actually is, but it sounds pretty bad. Every time you die, there's an added chance someone in the world will become afflicted with Dragon Rot. It doesn't kill them, but it does make them useless, so shops won't sell anything, quest NPCs won't give you quest dialogue. It actually sounds incredibly punishing, doesn't it? In reality, it's not nearly as bad as it could be, and in fact, the game gives you the ability to heal people who have Dragon Rot. Basically, around every 10 deaths, someone gets Dragon Rot, usually a side character and an important NPC. It takes a lot of deaths for the Dragon Rot to become a real problem, and even then, certain plot-critical NPCs never get Dragon Rot. It just can't happen. The game also has an abundance of items that heal Dragon Rot. These items are called the Dragon's Blood Droplet, and they don't just cure one person. Using one of these things will cure everyone who has Dragon Rot. For first-time players, the whole Dragon Rot situation sounds really unfair, but in reality, it's not that big of a deal. It really doesn't have a lot of effect on the game, so it's not nearly as bad as the game tries to make you think it is, at very least. And number 2 is Undertale: The Pacifist Route, a game that really loves pulling tricks on the player and lying about what's going on. Let's just be clear about what Undertale is here. I mean, one of the first things that happens in the entire game is when it tries to trick you into thinking the damaging bullets are friendliness pellets. So right from the start, the game's trying to throw you off and leave you stressed up. First time through, if you're playing the game blind, the pacifist route gonna be extremely stressful. Like, you never know if you're doing something wrong, or when the game might suddenly become unwinnable. If you're going for 100% pacifist, you're always gonna remain at level 1, which basically means instant death in any other RPG, because later enemies will just kill you instantly. But for this game, it is perfectly possible to play through the entire thing at level 1. In fact, it's kind of designed for it, but anyone playing through the first time is not going to know that. And finally, at number 1, Anti-Chamber, the time remaining clock. When it comes to stress-inducing clocks, they don't get much more pointless than this. The very first room in Anti-Chamber is basically like a hub room, except there's a countdown clock ticking down from 1 hour 30 minutes. The game says nothing about what the clock means, but it's a countdown in a video game, so it's safe to assume that it's important. Like, maybe you have to finish the game in 1.5 hours, or the whole thing resets. Now, you've gotten this far in the video, so you already know this clock is completely pointless. All that happens when it reaches 0 is that a new message appears that says, live on your own watch, not someone else's. Like, it's kind of a motivational speaking type thing. I don't know why it's even here. It's not motivational because this whole time we thought that clock was going to be a serious problem, and it's just them saying, like, don't do life on someone else's timeline. I mean, all right, sure. Why is that a part of a video game? Anyway, that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.